January 18th, and I'm going to document the state of blooms in my garden. We're looking at blooms past their peak on La Panza manzanita. Here's a different La Panza manzanita, a little bit more of a close-up of the blooms. They're basically white with a little blush color. These nice pink blooms are from Lester Roundtree manzanita. Here's an overview of the Lester Roundtree manzanita. Slow grower for me. It's going into its 4th year and it's barely 3 feet wide, but it's healthy. White lantern manzanita. This too is a slow grower. It is maybe 2.5 feet across, but it is healthy. Purple sage is just starting to bloom. I think this is amethyst bluff purple sage. Bit of a close-up with a bee working the flower. Well, I stand corrected. This is Salvia leucophila Point Sal, not amethyst bluff. The bladder pod is blooming all around my garden. It seems like it blooms nearly year-round. Here's some blue ceanothus blooms. I'm not exactly sure what the species is, but it's blooming pretty well. There's a wider angle view of the ceanothus. Right next to it is a Ray Hartman ceanothus that is only beginning to bloom. First blooms on Ceanothus cuneatus, or buckbrush. I planted this in honor of my visits up to Kevin Rainwater's heaven below the Topa Topa Bluffs. Buckbrush is everywhere up there. This sunset manzanita is putting on some blooms. Colors are basically white this year. A bit of a close-up of the blossoms. I have 3 sunset manzanitas in a row. Ceanothus varicosus. It's been blooming now for about 4 weeks. We have another one right next door. Get a little close-up of that. Close-up of the sunset blossoms again. California buckwheat, just starting to bloom. So middle of January start, ends bloom into spring, so it's a long bloomer. This is a low-growing black sage with purple blossoms. I have 2 of them growing right next to each other. The regular black sage with the white blossoms has not started blooming yet. I have a mass of volunteered showy penstemon, Penstemon spectabilis, and the first blooms of the year just came out today and you're seeing them. Howard McMinn manzanita just started putting on blooms. This is a nice plant. Here's a wider angle view of the Howard McMinn manzanita. It's going into its third year, and it's almost 4 feet across, so it's been a good performer here, good grower. This is a low-growing ceanothus. It's called Ceanothus maritimus, kind of like ocean ceanothus, and it shouldn't really be growing in Inland Empire, but it seems to like it here. It's putting on some nice purple blue blooms. Here's some more purple sage. Now this is amethyst bluff, and it's a sprawling purple sage, and the blooms are pretty this year. Here's a wider view of the sprawl, and I have 3 of these plants right here. And they're about probably almost 6 feet across now, 3 feet high. I have 2 Encelia californica growing in my yard. This is one of them. They're a big sprawling bush, and we got lots of blooms on now. This started blooming about 3 or 4 weeks ago. This monkey flower came back this year. They look so bad during the summer, but this one keeps coming back. In fact, it looks pretty healthy, but man, it looks terrible during the summer. It dies way back. This manzanita is going into its 4th year. It's a white lantern manzanita, and it's about 1 foot across. It's growing in sand or decomposed granite, and I had to chisel a hole out of the hard pan in order to give it a fighting chance. And it won't die, so I let it keep growing, but it grows at a snail's pace. Just for perspective, that little rock in front of it's about 7 inches long. This is one of 3 sugar bushes I have, and this one's blooming, and the other 2 higher up on the slope are not. A little close-up of the sugar bush blooms. Not spectacular, but they're there. Rainbow manzanita, first blooms just came on. There's a wider angle view of rainbow manzanita. I have 2 of them. They're about 3 feet to 3 feet across, 2 feet high, and they're going in their 4th year. My Ray Hartman manzanita is starting to bloom. It's about 12 feet high, 6 feet across, and it's in its 3rd year. It was a fast grower. Bee's Bliss sage in the last week has started to bloom. Last year, it was one of the earliest bloomers, and it bloomed for a good month or more. It was a really nice plant. I would be remiss if I did not include wishbone bush. Cat's having a little trouble over there. Eats grass and chucks it up. Wishbone bush, this one is a good 3.5 feet across, a foot high, and it just blooms. It's great. This manzanita, I got it from Theodore Payne. It's called Weber Garden Manzanita, and it's advertised to stay 2 feet by 2 feet, but it sprawls, and it really likes it in this kind of cool, sheltered area, guarded by a big lemon tree. I'm going to take a wider angle picture of it, and you can see how sprawled it is, but the blooms are coming in. So here's the sprawl. It kind of sprawls out onto my path, and I have to cut it back, and when I cut it back, it starts sprawling upwards. So we have one strand there that's about 3 feet high, but it's a real pretty manzanita. You can kind of see the red bark there next to the blooms. Here's more Bee's Bliss. This is by my pavers that surround my pool, and it spills out onto the pavers nicely and kind of across the path a little bit, but it really does bloom. Bees love it. Concha ceanothus is just starting to bloom. I have high hopes for a big bloom this year. Here's a wider angle view of the concha. I have 2 growing here, and they could well outgrow the space I got them in. But you can see the one is more low growing, and then I got one that is, the one that's blooming is a little higher growing. More manzanita blooms. This one from, I think it's a Louis Edmonds manzanita. And we can get a wider angle view of the manzanita. Pull back a little bit. Get it in focus. And this is a very elegant manzanita. And again, it's in its 3rd year. Here's a better view of that manzanita. It's either a Louis Edmonds manzanita or some Manzanita densiflora. Tell you the truth, I'm not sure. I'm going to need some advice, but it's beautiful. I have a little patch of hummingbird sage. I bought this from the Grow Native Nursery. I think it's called Las Pelitas hummingbird sage. It's a purple flower. You can see one little bloom, and you can see the color of it. It's purple. My other hummingbird sage is yellow. I like the purple better. The scraggly looking thing is called chuparosa. I planted that about a year ago. I bought it at our local chapter's native plants sale. I have some pitcher sage growing in the front yard, mostly as a filler. But it sure doesn't mind the shade. This is on the north side of the house. It works pretty well. Here you can see the pitcher sage that I planted behind my coffee berry, which is not blooming yet. But that coffee berry ought to take over, and that's my plan. My coffee berry is blooming a little bit, so I thought I would include that too. This is my Channel Islands bush poppy, 1 year old. Lots of blooms. It's about 3 feet by 3 feet by 3 feet, something like that. Healthy. I have high expectations about this plant. Zoom in a little bit on the actual flower. You can see why it's a poppy. Next to the bush poppy is a Baja fairy duster, Calendra californica. And this one is also maybe 1.5 years old. And it took a long time to get going, but it's getting there. There's a wide angle view of the Calendra californica. It's right on the edge of the sidewalk between our property and the neighbor's property. We have some little kitties that are not supposed to be where they are. They're leaving the property, going exploring. Got to keep an eye on them. I've probably planted 10 1-gallon pot of Penstemon Margarita Bop. And they've all died. But I like the look of the flower so much, I just keep planting more. So I put 3 of them here in the front. This one just started blooming, and they're right next to my Penstemon Heterophila that has gone wild in the front, so maybe it'll rub off on the Margarita Bops. Here's the Penstemon Heterophila blooming. You can see that it's a pretty good sized plant, maybe 3 by 3 by 3. You can see all the blooms. And I got another plant right next door to it that's blooming. Another shot of Penstemon Heterophila. Orphan decided to come back. And the last bloom I have in the front yard is Seaside Buckwheat. I have 2 of these in my little planting area here in front. And they're just a sprawling, ever-blooming buckwheat, and I love buckwheat. So that's the state of my blooms. Middle of January 2026.